Hi, everyone. Welcome to one more episode of Conversations with Dr. Cybersecurity. And you're wondering why I have this routine gallery with me, because today is a very, very special day. You're seeing behind me Dominique Owens and Katia Dean, both award winners from ISC Square. And this picture is from 2017 when I had just won the award. And I wanted to show it to them to inspire them and hope that they would aspire for this award themselves. And they did. And now this has become a very historic picture. Today, my first guest is Dominique Owens. So Dominique, please introduce yourself and say hello.
Hello, everybody. Well, again, my name is Dominique Owens. Let's see, a little bit about me. I'm from Maryland, originally from Baltimore. I'm about an 8 to 10 year experienced professional working in cybersecurity, so I've been around for a while. Feel like an old head, but it's okay. I currently work at Grant Thornton, which is known for tax advisory audits, similar to like a Deloitte or KPMG. And so my position is that I'm a team lead for an 8 to 10 person team for an internal security compliance team that we support. So during the day, I review contracts for to assess potential risk, but my passions lie in team building. I'm very passionate about mentoring, just enriching the next generation of cybersecurity professionals. And I like to take long walks on the beach. I'm sorry, this is not Tinder profile. But overall, that's what I enjoy. So I'm glad to be here and glad to be able to share a great conversation with you, Dr. Haseeb.
Wow, what a lovely introduction. See, that is lovely. We want to see a little bit of your personality there too. So that was great. That was a great introduction. So what questions, what topics do we want to talk about today?
Sure. Well, I had an opportunity to read your book, Cybersecurity Leadership, which was phenomenal. I wish I had that book when I was in college, truly. It would have prepared me so much more for the workforce.
Oh, wow.
Absolutely.
Oh, it's never too late.
True, I could teach a course and, make it from your book, right?
And that is exactly the way the book was written. I mean, as you saw, I have covered, 40 plus topics in there?
Yes.
Without going too deep into any, because I felt like it was important to show that depth and breadth of the field rather than go too deep into one thing, because I wouldn't be able to fit that into a single book.
Right.
So that is exactly the way it was designed, and it is a course. I do teach that course, and that book is one of the guides for that course.
It's a great book to read, and I like the fact that it wasn't. You don't have to have a strong technical background to be able to understand and process the information. So that's what made it so easy for me to read and be able to absorb, what the content was, in the book.
Yeah, that was another thing that I wanted to do when I was writing the book. I actually tested it with 15-year-olds as well as practitioner CISOs and CIOs. And I wanted to make sure that everybody understood, including non-professionals. So when I gave it to a high school student, 15-year-old high school student, she understood it too. So I was like, wow, this is good. This
Perfect. Is absolutely incredible. All right. Well, Dr. Haseeb, I am ready to run with the first question if you are.
All right. All right.
All right. Okay. Perfect. All right. So my first question is, in your book, you emphasize the importance of communicating an organization's mission to the teams to make sure that their responsibilities align with that mission. Question is, it's kind of a two-part question. What are some effective ways we as leaders can communicate to our team how their work affects and contributes to the mission? And also, how do you continue to keep the team itself, mission focused and motivated during a crisis, such as?
Okay, this is such a foundational and fundamental question, because this is one of the things that a lot of people fail, a lot of leaders fail to translate that mission. Because sometimes what happens is that the organization's mission may seem too nebulous for a team person, but we need to say the project that they're working on, how that is tied to the mission. You see, so that is what I used to do. We would actually discuss this in the team meetings, and I would ask them, how do you feel that you would implement the organization's mission into your job. So one of the things that I would try to do is have them vocalize it rather than have me vocalize it, right? So we would say, okay, this is our big mission for the company, but these are the company initiatives that we have. So give you a very simple example. It was when I was with a nuclear power plant, it was to get that nuclear power plant off the watch list. All right, well, to get the nuclear power plant off the watch list, one of the things that had to happen is that the nuclear power plant needed to be able to find things quickly, reliably, and it needed to have backup copies and all of that. So therefore, the people that were working on the network, they could translate the reliability of the network, the availability of the network, and the integrity of the information to now the mission of us making sure that the plant gets off the watch list, you see? So that is how. Make it very, very operational, and then talk about it at every team meeting. That's one of the things that I did. So if you remember, there's a chapter in there about how I rotated the meeting chair role between all the members, right?
Yes.
That taught them leadership because I was building leaders. That was the whole goal, building the leaders.
That's perfect. And that's actually something that I wish more managers would implement as far as having that rotational leadership. You don't always see that. I think sometimes, all of us sometimes suffer from the imposter syndrome. And so I think having a setup like that definitely breaks that mindset altogether.
Absolutely. Part of the problem that we have that is actually management is taught the wrong way. See, in MBA schools and management schools and all those, they're equating management and leadership constantly. And that is where the problem is. They have these various styles of management and leadership, they call it. But really, leadership has no styles. Leadership is simply enabling and empowering somebody to achieve a goal. So I don't know. I've never had a style. That was just the way I did it.
Right. And that's the most effective way to lead. Not have a style, just have a purpose, and influence altogether.
Yes. What else?
Let's see. So my second question is, your book talked about the importance of leaders having specific leadership values, and I'll just name a couple of those: integrity, empowerment, teamwork, customer service, continuous learning, and positive reinforcement. So which leadership values do you feel are still missing in today's work environment for the creation of effective cybersecurity teams and new leaders?
Well, the most important things that I see missing are, number one, the ethical leadership part. Right? I mean, so many people are making decisions that are solely for their own benefit. They don't think about the benefit of the organization. I'm very excited that on September 9th, one of my former supervisors will be on my show. And I've known him for about 30 years. And many of the stories in my book are from some of those times when I saw what real leadership was all about. These are the kinds of people that never thought about themselves. They only thought about the success of the company and the success of the people, because the success of the company and the success of the people automatically translated into their own personal success. Mm-hmm. And that is a very powerful way to live. So that, I believe, is what is called ethical leadership. Ethical leadership means that I am not necessarily going to line my pocket, right? Because most of us, especially in various government roles or whatever roles, you deal with vendors. Well, if a vendor could bribe you, would you really be making the right decision? So all of these things come into the play, you see? And many people lose sight of that particular thing. Integrity is so important in just our data information also, but it's also important in our own personal lives, right? Because it guides our behavior. And if we don't have ethics or integrity, how can we expect anybody else? We're expecting people to be loyal to the company and to us, but if we're not loyal to them, how does it work?
That's true. That's true.
I mean, I've seen people lay off people just after helping them move to the new home.
Wow.
So they knew that some layoff was happening and a new hire was happening, yet they never said anything to this new employee, helped the person move, and then after that, the next day or via email, the person was let go. Well, see, that's not ethical leadership. On my teams always knew that as long as I had a job, they would never be laid off. That was an open policy. Because my thing was, if my people are always worried about being laid off, would they really be able to innovate and concentrate on the job? Never. So I said, relax, focus on the job. As long as you're doing your job and you're faithful to the company, faithful to the job, you will never be laid off. Fired is a different story. I have fired people for violating ethics, lying, not doing the work, those kinds of things. But as long as they were doing the work, layoff is a different story altogether, you see? And if a layoff has to happen, I should be the first one to go, shouldn't I? Because is it the finances? Well, who's in charge of the finances? Is it me and some of the higher executives? Well, if we're mismanaging the finances, why aren't we the first to go? You see? So I think that is the number one thing. Everything else follows. Now, empowerment is very important also. I see too many people trying to run companies with the brains of one person, so they don't empower people to make the right decisions. And most often you will find that the person in charge, the supervisor, is not the most qualified person to make the decision, right? The person closest to the technical issue is most often the right person to make the decision. So that person should be empowered and you should trust. So that was another thing. My former supervisor, who's going to come on September 9th, at no time did he ever micromanage me or tell me how to do something. He would tell me what needs to be done, and then he would trust my innovation, my judgment to figure out what was the right way to do it, come to him with a recommendation, and then show him the product. And I still remember his style was very simple. He would give a big smile and he would shake my hand. That's all that needed to be said. And I knew it was right. You see? And that's what I mean.
That's very profound, Dr. Haseeb. I think one of the things I read in your book, kind of going back to integrity, is that people need to feel as though they're in a safe space. And the more they feel that they're in a safe space, the more they'll produce, the more loyal they'll become. So you don't see as much, employee hopping. And that's been very rampant. But you won't see any of that. If they feel that even if the money is not there, if they feel as though they're valued, if they feel as though their ideas are being implemented, they'll do whatever they can to make sure that they perform well and support it.
Absolutely. The positive work environment. You see, when people are happy at work and they feel like a family and all that, guess what? We get some incredible positive chemicals flowing through our whole body, which makes us very innovative and all that. We are happy to come to work. We're excited about going to work and working with the people and supporting each other. So that was the other thing that I used to do. Teamwork is also missing. We have too many silos. People are often pit against each other. And that can create a toxic environment. And you've read the chapter on the amygdala hijack condition in my book, probably. Well, that creates this permanent amygdala hijack condition, which means you are constantly under stress, and therefore your brain is always working far below its capacity.
That's true. That's true. So Dr. Haseeb, if we can make carbon copies of you as managers, that would be perfect.
So this is why I keep talking with people like you. See, my goal is what? To build more better leaders. So I'm very thankful that you read my book. There are thousands of people all over the world who are embracing this. My ideas aren't new. I've just applied them in the cybersecurity field in a fresh way, in a different way. Many of the ideas that I've used in the book are ideas that are permanent truths. I mean, people have talked about that in the 1960s, 1930s. So I have basically refreshed them and applied them to cybersecurity, because cybersecurity requires perpetual innovation and confidentiality, integrity, and availability are our three key goals. Well, none of this can be achieved without this classic form of true leadership. You see? So anyway, this was absolutely amazing chatting with you and catching up with you. I'm so happy that you read the book and that you've embraced the ideas and you're well ahead on your journey to become an amazing cybersecurity leader. Good luck with you, and stay in touch, and I hope you will come back again.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Haseeb, for having me.
And now I am going to bring in Jothi Dugar. Jothi, please introduce yourself and say hello.
Hello. Hi, Dr. Haseeb. Hi, everyone. So thrilled and excited to be here today. I'm currently the CISO at NIH Center for Information Technology, but I've been a CISO for about almost 10 years now, and been in cyber for about 20 years now, even before they called it cyber. That's when I started. It was like duties as assigned and information assurance. But I now I'm really passionate, like you, Dr. Haseeb, to bring in other sides to cyber, and especially to cyber leadership and technology leadership. So I'm also a holistic wellness expert, an author, and a mom of 3 kids. And I'm trying really hard to merge the holistic wellness world and transformational leadership with cyber and technology. So I think you are the perfect person for me to, try to ask as a role model on how can we merge all of these worlds together.
You are doing it. I mean, I've seen your work. I've seen the way you inspire the new generation. I've seen what you are always exuding, which is true leadership. And that's one of the biggest reasons that we connected. And I remember you shared a little bit about your story at one of the Cyber Maryland events. And since then, I've continued to watch your work. So this is amazing. So what topics and issues do you want to talk about, Jothi?
Really, how do we, sometimes it is a little scary when you're trying to pioneer your way through just kind of creating the path in front of you. And I've seen you do that and trying my best to do that. But sometimes it is scary because you don't really know, it's like the GPS system. You can see your end goal is clear. You don't really know exactly the steps or the route it's going to take to get there. And sometimes you just have to kind of have faith in what you're trying to do. And especially when you have all different parties that are like the naysayers, the fear factor, the people that operate from fear, maybe sometimes your own, the people that are closest to you may not really be supportive because they're operating through fear too. So my question really is, how are you able to kind of navigate your own path through all of that and be successful?
This is a very profound question. I have actually faced that same thing because you talked about that. In many of my cases, I had to worry what my wife was going to say also, because a lot of times they're all worried about this economic and financial stability. But you see, one of the other things is that my ethics and my values aren't for sale. So it doesn't matter where I'm working or who I'm working with. If a situation or a job or a boss wants me to sacrifice my values, that is simply not going to happen. And I've had to actually walk away from jobs because of that. So what I have done is, again, you have to embrace the values and figure out how you're going to manage the risks of your career. And so I've done that also. I've always had multiple sources of income. I've specifically created those multiple sources of income so I would never have to worry about sacrificing my ethics for a job. You see, so that I think is one of the fundamental ways. And I see that you're doing that because you're creating your public speaking career, you're writing your book. So these will all start to create alternative and additional sources of income. There was a time in my life, I was a real estate agent, and that used to produce about 1/3 of my income. And as a matter of fact, when I got laid off the first time, that real estate agency was my fail safe. And I have purposefully done it for that purpose. So you see, that is the thing. You have to manage your own risks. But if you believe in what you're doing, and I know what you're doing is 100% correct, will you stumble a few times? Will one of your experiments go wrong? Of course it will. Innovation is always like that. And that is why you try multiple things, right? I've never tried just one thing. This whole conversation series, I had no idea it would be so powerful in a way that I would bring in so many people. We would talk about things and it would start to gain traction. And then people would start to benefit from that. I never thought it would happen. I thought I would just do it because, hey, we're quarantine learning. It's COVID is going on. How can I keep people engaged? And I also wanted to help people who were looking for jobs, layoff, and all that, how to survive through all of that. But I never realized it would turn into this rich thing. So that's the thing. I mean, you could do the similar things also that would build your brand and start to grow your network with like-minded people. So that's the other thing. Because you're going to have that noise and the people, the naysayers, you also need to surround yourself with the yay-sayers, right? And that is what I have done. And that surrounding keeps multiplying because at some point, these people who are your yay-sayers are saying the same thing you would have said, but in a different way, with their own spin, with their own personality, with their own passion. And now all of a sudden, your ideas have amplified beyond your wildest dreams.
So how do you find the yay-sayers without compromising? I guess sometimes what I've seen is when you go along a certain path and sometimes the imposter syndrome kicks in, sometimes you're not really 100% sure if the other person is or the other parties are really encouraging you, or is there some sort of imposter syndrome going on with them that after a certain point they start to kind of waver on becoming a yay-sayer or a naysayer?
Well, if they are not genuine yay-sayers, you will probably figure it out. I think that it is just like relationships. How do you build relationships? It's the same way. How do you build teams? You continue to understand if you share values or not. You will see that people are genuinely sharing your ideas, but there are times when people are going to try to take advantage of you. When you sense that, run from those situations. I've done that. As a matter of fact, when we were doing the Cybersecurity Divas World Tour, it was not originally thought to be that. We were doing something else. But then we found out other people were figuring out that this was going to be an amazing thing. And all of a sudden, they wanted to take it over. They wanted to take credit for this whole thing. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is not your show. This is not your event. So we just pulled out. And we did our own thing. So yeah, you have to establish your own center of power and that confidence. And the modern world, in the modern world right now, the power center is with the knowledge and your personal brand. You see, in the old world, power was from positions or money or things like that. Today, it's no longer that. It's all about the brand that you build, the number of followers you have throughout the world that are supporting the mission that you're trying to achieve and helping you amplify your voice. So it's a very, very different sort of power. And some of the older centers of power are actually very afraid of this. So they will try to cut you down. Yeah,
Wow.
I mean, the award-winning program that I started is now being run by somebody with a PhD in English. right? So people are going to do it, but what do? You can only control your actions, right? I am in 100% control of my actions, but I cannot control anybody else's actions. Nor will I enable these kinds of crazy situations, because that would not be ethical either. If somebody in English, PhD in English, is telling me how to run a program in a cybersecurity, would I really tolerate that situation? No way. Just because of a position of power, just because the person is my boss, that's ridiculous. If I can do somebody else's job and that person cannot do mine, that person shouldn't be in those positions of power, but I cannot help it. I cannot do anything about it. But what can I do? I control my actions. So that's what I keep doing. So I keep teaching, I keep demonstrating that, hey, my work doesn't continue because of a role or anything. Like Katia Dean, today she was just announced as the ISC Squares 2020 winner of the Rising Star Award. One of my students. Dominique Owens won last year, one of my students. So, okay, I must be doing something right. And that's what you do. You demonstrate to the world through your achievements. That is the biggest center of validation, right? The university I was with has been around for 70 years. Never won an award in cybersecurity until my program won the back-to-back awards in 2018 and 2019. I don't know if they will ever win again. Right? So this is the thing. I mean, the value and positive work that you keep doing will usually not fail you. That work will stay behind. Most people who are trying to make a difference were always minimized, were always diminished by society. Most big changes do not come from the people already in positions of power and benefiting from the old positions of power, right? Innovation never comes from them.
Do you feel like there's a kind of a new awakening and basically a new realm being formed through this pandemic, where it's really opening up doors for those of us that are trying to make a difference in the world?
I believe so, because here was the other thing. So many people were denigrating online education when I have been an evangelist for online education for all these years, right? Even when I was a chief information officer, I always had a robust business continuity plan. The whole city got shut down. I wanted to make sure that the companies where I was a CIO could run. Well, today, how many people don't have a business continuity plan or a disaster recovery plan? And all of a sudden, they're trying to take the same boring lecture that they used to do in face-to-face format. They're trying to take it online. And online, that boring lecture is a torture. Online has to be rethought, right? When I did online, it was not just deliver the same boring lecture via Zoom or some video call, right? We did the Cybersecurity Divas tour. What did we show over there? That online education can be fun, engaging. You can use music, games, animation, comics, all these things to make online engaging. So when I taught online, most of the time people would forget that we're online. Do virtual backgrounds, have fun, wear a funny hat. It doesn't matter. Make it entertaining. Make it like an event. So yes, absolutely. So people who are being innovative, I believe that the new day is coming and a new day of reckoning is definitely coming.
It's no longer doomsday anymore.
No, I think that people, especially people like you, me, who have that digital strategy, this is our time to shine. Right? We can teach others. And that is one of the other things that I've been doing. So again, how do you establish the positions of power? By teaching others. And then when somebody else is benefited from your knowledge, guess what? They will become usually a friend for life. So I did that with my Toastmasters group. We were all meeting face to face, but I changed them to online in March. And guess what? We had contests online. Our club is actually growing. We just got 9 new members over the last 2 months, which is incredible because of online. We were able to expand our geographic borders. We don't have to just recruit from the local area anymore. So we have a member from Bermuda. So yeah, you could teach, you could have conversations and things like that online.
Very cool. Awesome.
And same thing with your books and all that. Even if you produce 1-minute videos. So this is the other thing that the other day I had told somebody to produce 1 to 2-minute videos as a way to break through the noise for job interviewing. Guess what? 45 days after she did that, she landed a job. Somebody saw the video. So
yeah,
you can be creative and do your own thing.
Yeah, I came up with a cyber rap video 7 years ago, and it was was actually we were told by our supervisor at the time, or our CIO at the time, that each department had to present what they did so that everyone knows. And of course, every single manager went up there with a slide deck, like, well, here are the people on our team, here's what we do. And the rest of us are like, okay, that's nice. And then I'm like, okay, I gotta do something different. Because no one really understood cybersecurity back then anyway. So me going with the PowerPoint slide deck wasn't really gonna do anything. So I'm like, I'm gonna create a rap video. At first I was a little too daring. I thought maybe I'll actually do the rap myself. So, kudos to you for enabling Tomiko and them to actually rap, but it sounded horrible when I tried to do it. So I was like, yeah, maybe this is just not my thing. But I had like really good lyrics. So I actually found someone on Fiverr who actually did the rap for me, and I had typography and this whole video thing. And of course it was like, people were like, oh my gosh, like this is awesome. So I put it on YouTube. And
you gotta show me that. I don't think I've seen that one. That's
if you search for cybersecurity rap video on YouTube, I think there's only like 2 or 3, so I think it pretty much comes up, especially if you search for my name. And what ended up happening was every time I would do an interview, like I would actually interview someone for a job, they would look me up and then they'd be like, hey, are you also a rapper? And I'm like, well, I mean, I write songs, or maybe raps, I should call it. And I mean, that was like the only one I did. And of course they found my other dance videos too. I also dance. So they're like, wait, is this job about cybersecurity? Or I'm like, yeah, you're not going to be doing any singing or dancing, but but it made for a fun interview.
Building your brand, and that is awesome. Okay, and you're changing the game. So that is the key, right? To building your brand is to don't follow somebody else's game or the same boring thing. Do your own thing. So that is an absolutely wonderful story. I want to catch up with you later, but I'm going to bring in my next guest. It was absolutely wonderful to talk to you, Jothi. Wish you all the best and lots of success. And now I'm going to bring in Dutch Schwartz, who's coming back for his second visit on this show.
Dr. Haseeb, how are you?
I am well. I love that security t-shirt. There's a
Fantastic.
man with a brand.
You and I are simpatico on the brand, right? So sometimes people get hung up. I've had people who work with me get hung up on branding, and I say, if the word bothers you, it's your reputation. What somebody would say about you when you leave the room, it's the same thing. Like, people get stuck, especially technology people. Oh, branding, that's a marketing thing. I don't want to. No, you've always had a brand. Maybe you didn't own it. Maybe you didn't explicitly think about it, but you've always had a brand. Everybody does, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So by way of intro, a lot of the folks here already know me, but fortunately for me, I've been able to put myself in a spot where my day-to-day job is also something that I love doing. So I spend my days talking with CISOs and architects and their staffs and helping them design cloud security strategies. And what I try to bring to that's a little bit different is I was an Army infantry officer. And as an officer, you always have a functional area. It's a secondary area. And mine happens to be plans, training, and operations. So I've trained thousands and thousands of people in wartime environments. And so I try to bring that sort of that rigor and that thought process, but apply that to cybersecurity and help people kind of untap, their business and build strategies. So that's a little bit about me. But let's jump on to you. I'd love to hear, I was thinking about your book again, and you have a very, specific definition of cybersecurity. So is there a part of that definition that you think gets misunderstood or misapplied? It is not, and people aren't really gathering each piece of that definition.
Absolutely correct. Actually, what they forget about is the mission. And that is why I loved Dominique's question about that mission. You see, too many people are trying to do the same thing for every company. So they never figure out, okay, what kind of a company am I working for? What is the mission? And then what are the priorities? So if you look at that model and that definition comes from the model, which I've also shared in the book. And you see that the foundation is three things: mission, risk, and governance. If you don't do any of those three things, the rest of the whole model, the whole definition is basically useless, because nothing else is going to work. If you buy technology, you're wasting money. Mm-hmm. Buying technology without a strategy is wasting money, right? Because you don't know what you're trying to fix. You're never going to buy technology randomly, because it has to be prioritized. Which technology, if I need technology, which technology am I going to do first? And then the people. I can't forget about the people. Too many organizations are not hiring the people. They don't have the people. They will have some finance officer or somebody just go to their favorite vendor and hire and buy technology. So yes, what they're missing is the mission-focused, risk-optimized governance. So the very first sentence is what? Cybersecurity is the mission-focused, risk-optimized governance of information. That is the key statement right there. Everything else comes much later. So very, very astute question. I believe that is still the problem. People are still mouthing leadership. Maybe they've heard me talk about it. They figure leadership is important, but they still don't understand what leadership actually means. It means enabling perpetual innovation. It's not controlling everybody. See, they're again misrepresenting the term leadership.
Right. Completely agree with you. So no, I was thought about that, and I thought, to me, those are some of the pieces, right? And then the governance piece, right? So it's unfortunate, I'll call it that we sort of separate out governance as if it's, right, Amy's on this call, right? As if it's somehow separate, and not intrinsic to what we do. So different question for you. So let's just take our community, right? We talked about you can control our actions and we can control our own reactions to things, right? So what can we do as a community to help historically disadvantaged communities earlier in the process, right? So you're a lifetime educator. So not even just at the university level or at the adult level, how do we make changes sooner, right? So how do we, in communities that need it the most, can we unleash digital transformation at the high school level, at the middle school level? So what can we do in that area as a community?
There are people doing it. For example, there are people that are doing internships, they're doing A+, Security+, Network+ kinds of workshop and putting teenagers to work. I've seen that. I've seen that in Baltimore. I've seen that in various cities. So I believe that is the way. I believe that there are organizations that will help. Sometimes it is the city mayor's offices that we might need to get involved. So it really needs to be a collaboration between the private sector, the public sector, and passionate educators. So that is the way it would work. I mean, in Baltimore, that's what they were doing. They had collected some educators, some companies, and also the mayor's office and things like that. And they were trying to do this. This was several years ago. It definitely can be done.
Gotcha.
I did my part every time that I was in a CIO role or some role where I could hire interns and things like that, even from high school students. I did that.
Gotcha. So we've had tons of conversations. You've had tons of conversations. We've been participants or viewers in a lot of these. What's the most surprising thing to you now that you've done dozens of these? What would you not have been able to predict that you can see now after having done so many?
You mean these conversations?
Yeah.
I never realized they would be so much fun.
Well, that's joyful.
I thought, oh my God, it's going to be grueling for me, right? I mean, trying to do this think all the time.
Right.
And I don't know what questions anybody's going to ask me and all
Right.
that. And would I be able to answer? But I also was amazed at the number of amazing people in my network. So often, I really didn't know the people in my network.
Mm-hmm.
You are a good example of that.
Sure.
Been connected for many years.
Right.
I really didn't know you.
Right.
Okay. And I felt like I feel like I'm making those deeper connections with people. And I'm beginning to feel like, okay, we actually do have some commonalities in mission, purpose, our methodologies may be different, and we learn from each other. So I have learned a lot from just talking to people and things like that. And I also believe the other thing that I never expected is that some of the ideas that I shared here, I didn't expect that would actually start to help people. So that was another huge revelation. And that was very powerful and fulfilling for me to continue.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So we've had lots of conversations around, cybersecurity and technology, and sometimes we go astray. But is there something about, like, do you have a hobby or interest that you sort of informs the things that you do in the professional world? So is there something else that you say, oh, I really learned a lot from music or the arts, and that it kind of informs or colors in some context around the things that you do professionally?
I honestly think it's always been my love for people.
Mm-hmm.
My biggest entertainment comes from engaging with people, good people, positive people. I don't care what their color is, religion is, or whatever. I really don't care. I don't care about their gender or anything. But I like interesting, positive people. And I have never tried to change anybody. But what I try to do is, okay, what's in this person? What makes this person tick? What is unique about that person? So that process of discovery is a lot of fun for me. And through these conversations, I have learned a lot about that also. So that is another way it kind of rejuvenates me. It creates more friendships and things like that. And I continue to grow that way. So I think that is the key thing. That was me from even when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to have lots and lots of friends and just have fun with people. For me, watching TV was never fun.
Yeah, that's really informative. So let me go like pick something it's more tangible. So is there a topic in cybersecurity, or again, maybe the training or the culture, that you wish would get more, right? So we talk a lot about A, B, and C, but God, I wish we would really get more thoughts, more brains, more views on. Is there something you think that we should be highlighting?
Yes, it is this relationship. You see, the thing that made me successful was not the technology. It wasn't my leadership. It was all that harmony that I created with lots of passionate people who were all pulling towards that mission and the goal. And they were 100% a team. They were never fighting each other. So that was one thing I would never tolerate. Any team member bad-mouthing another team member or trying to work against a team member, that would be deadly to any team. And that was my job as a supervisor, as a leader, to make sure that never happens. And if that happens, those are the kinds of people that I did have to get rid of. I did have to get rid of a few people on my team, but in general, everybody else, once it does take work to build the teamwork. As you saw in a book, that is one of the central things I say, that you have to build this team. And the team has to have the values, it has to have the culture, it has to have that friendship, all of those things. And once you get that thing done, my God, productivity goes through the roof. And that is the thing people need to understand, that layoffs is not the answer for company success. As a matter of fact, if your company could have a policy that no layoffs, Try that and see how powerful that can be. That is how I ran many organizations for 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't me, it was all the amazing people. And in my book, you probably saw that there was a time when my boss told me to lay off one person from my team.
Right.
And I volunteered to be laid off myself. And my boss wouldn't go for it. And I said, that's crazy. Why would I save my job? Because I would be dead anyway. If I lay off one person, my team is dead.
Yeah, so tremendous amount of, leadership there. We certainly respect that, and tons of trust, right, that comes out of a choice like that. Yeah.
Yes, and the amazing thing is that I'm still friends with all those people who were on my team at that time. Because see, when you create that kind of trust and relationship, you basically create that trust and relationship for a lifetime. I am still, so among the great leaders who were my bosses, I mean, I never treated them like a boss. They were always like a friend and a leader and a mentor. The good ones, I'm still friends with. They have retired many years ago. We haven't worked together 20, 30 years now. But we're still friends. If I ever go to a city where they're living now in a retirement or whatever, I mean, you should come back on September the 9th when one of my former supervisors will be on this show. We haven't worked together for 20 years. He saw me when I was like a 30-year-old kid, just about to start my career at the Constellation Energy nuclear power plant. But the leadership that those kinds of people gave me and teaching me leadership and relationships, oh my God, he was like a tiger. That guy was a tiger. Nobody could touch any of his people. So I learned that. Nobody, I never let anybody touch any of my people.
Yeah, it's a really powerful lesson.
You see, if a leader cannot protect their people, that person is no good as a leader. Nobody could tell me anything bad about my people because I knew everything that was good or bad about my people.
Right. Fantastic. Thanks, Dr. Haseeb.
Yeah, I remember one story. Somebody told him something bad about me. He almost took him to the behind the building and almost punched him out. Yeah. I was like, Gene, you did that for me? He said, yeah, how dare he tell me about you? And I'm like, oh my God, this is pretty amazing. So I learned that is the kind of tiger you need to be for your people.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that story.
Well, that is amazing. It was wonderful to catch up with you, Dutch. And now we will turn off the recording so we can have a lot of fun networking. Thank you.